Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 20th, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball games and look ahead to today's games of college basketball, and the same with women's college hoops in terms of the ranked matchups. There's one actually going on right now as we speak. Go over last night's NHL games, look ahead to tonight's slate, go over my Major League Baseball right fielder rankings, discuss more of the fallout of the Manny Machado situation and the latest on Bryce Harper. Le'Veon Bell will be a free agent, and I'm going to close the podcast by giving out my trade predictions for the NHL trade deadline and my best bet of the day. So, to college hoops we go. A lot of interesting results from last night, including Dayton upsetting Davidson 74-73, a huge win for Dayton, brutal loss for Davidson in terms of its at-large hopes. I think they've been surpassed by VCU in terms of the favorite to get an at-large in that conference, but Davidson's still in play. They just need some SoCon teams to fall through a little bit and some of these mediocre major teams to fall back, and UCF and Temple. You got to keep an eye on those teams as well. But Davidson's still in the running for an at-large, but it's looking unlikely at this point. Dayton's 17-9, Davidson's 19-7. Josh Cunningham led the way for Dayton with 21 points, and John Axel Gudmundsson had 26 for Davidson. Number 5, Tennessee defeats Vanderbilt 58-46. Tennessee bounces back and wins. They didn't cover, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is that a win's a win. They're 24-2. Vanderbilt's 9-17. Grant Williams had 14 points for Tennessee, and Vanderbilt's leading scorer was Aaron Nesmith with 13. Number 15, Purdue defeats Indiana 48-46 on a tip-in by Matt Harms with 3.2 seconds left to lead Purdue to a win. They're 19-7. Indiana's 13-13. Ryan Klein had 11 for Purdue, and Romeo Langford had 14 for Indiana. Number 25, Buffalo destroys Ohio 114-67. Jeez Louise. Buffalo 23-3. Ohio 11-14. 19 threes for the Bulls. Javon Graves had 26 for the Bulls, and for the Bobcats, Jason Carter had 16. Bowling Green defeats Akron 73-69. Bowling Green is 19-7. Akron's 14-12. Justin Turner had 23 for Bowling Green, and Jeremy Roscoe had 16 for Akron. South Florida defeats Florida College 95-54. Kind of late for a bye game if you're South Florida. They're 18-8, and Antun Marcevic led them in scoring with 16 points. Penn State defeats Nebraska 95-71. Penn State's 10-16, Nebraska 15-12. Lamar Stevens had 29 for the Nittany Lions, and James Palmer Jr. had 24 for Nebraska. Wake Forest defeats Notre Dame 75-68. Wake Forest 10-15, Notre Dame 13-13. Brandon Childress had 20 for Wake, and TJ Gibbs had 23 for Notre Dame. South Carolina upsets Ole Miss 79-64. I called that one. South Carolina's 14-12. Ole Miss is 18-8. Chris Silva had 18 for the Gamecocks, and the Rebels' leading scorer was Brean Tyree with 19. Iona defeats Quinnipiac 81-77. Iona is 11-15. Quinnipiac 14-12. Tejuan Aji had 27 for the Gales, and Quinnipiac's leading scorer was Cameron Young with 30. Siena defeats St. Peter's 72-62. Siena 14-14. St. Peter's 6-20. Evan Fisher had 21 for Siena, and Devontae Turner had 16 for St. Peter's. Miami of Ohio defeats Ball State by a score of 69-66. Miami of Ohio is 14-12. Ball State is also 14-12. Nike Sabande had 17 for Miami of Ohio, and then Ball State's leading scorer was Taylor Persons with 16. Eastern Michigan defeats Toledo 76-69. Eastern Michigan 12-14, Toledo 20-6. Elijah Minnie at 23 for Eastern Michigan, and Marion Jackson at 14 for Toledo. Colgate defeats Bucknell 75-64. Colgate 18-10. Bucknell 17-10. Rapolas Avanskas had 21 for Colgate, and Nave Toomer had 16 for Bucknell. Central Michigan defeats Kent State 84-74. Central Michigan 18-8. Kent 19-7. Sean Roundtree had 20 for Central Michigan, and Philip Whittington had 18 for Kent State. Number 24, Maryland defeats number 21, Iowa, 66-65. Fun fact of this game is that this is the Maryland Terrapins' first win on the road against a ranked opponent in conference play under Mark Turgeon. They're 20-7 on the year, and Iowa's 20-6. Anthony Cohen Jr. had 17 for Maryland, and Jordan Bannerman had 14 for the Hawkeyes. So, bad luck after a lot of good luck for the Hawkeyes, as Bruno Fernando hits in the go-ahead tip-in with 11 seconds to go. Or something like that. I don't remember how much time exactly was left. Drake defeats Bradley 77-68. Drake 21-7. Bradley 15-13. Brady Ellingson had 17 for Drake, and Elijah Childs had 24 for Bradley. Texas Rio Grande defeats Wayland Baptist 85-66. Rio Grande 16-13 on the year. Terry Wynn the third had 14, the lead Rio Grande in scoring. VCU kills Rhode Island 76-42. VCU 20-6. Rhode Island 12-13. Marcus Santos Silva 19 for VCU, and Jeff Dowson had 14 for Rhode Island. Number 4, Kentucky defeats Missouri 66-58. Kentucky 22-4. Missouri 12-13. Ronnie Suggs had 13 for Missouri to lead them in scoring, and P.J. Washington had 18 to lead the Wildcats in scoring. Number 16, Florida State defeats Clemson 77-64. Florida State 21-5. Clemson 15-11. That, I believe, is 8 straight wins now for Florida State. Mfandu Kamjadeli had 19 for the Seminoles, and Marquise Reed had 20 for Clemson. Baylor defeats number 19, Iowa State, 73-69. Baylor 17-9, Iowa State 19-7, so huge win for Baylor. Jared Butler had 17 for Baylor, and Mariel Shayok had 20 for Iowa State. Texas A&M defeats Alabama 65-56. A&M 11-14. Alabama 15-11. Savion Flagg had 18 for A&M, and Tevin Mack had 14 for Alabama. New Mexico State defeats A&M International 80-42. New Mexico State 23-4, and Eli Chuba led them in scoring with 14 points. UNLV defeats Wyoming 66-56. UNLV 15-11. Wyoming 6-20. Chris Clyburn had 17 for UNLV, and Justin James had 25 for Wyoming. Big slate tonight, 6:30, Big Ten Network. Rutgers at number 10, Michigan State. Michigan State's a whopping 16-point favorite on the road. I think Michigan State wins, but Rutgers covers. Rutgers isn't that bad of a team. They'd be over 500 if the Hawkeyes' dream season of luck didn't really hit them at the rack like it did a few weeks ago. Number 17, Villanova at Georgetown. Villanova's a 5.5-point favorite. I think they're going to rebound the big way and beat Georgetown and win by double digits after the loss to St. John's. SEC Network, Mississippi State at Georgia. Mississippi State's a 6.5-point favorite. I think they win and cover. I'm not a fan of this Georgia team at all. 7 o'clock on ESPN2, Florida at number 13, LSU. LSU's favored by 7. I think they're going to win and cover. On ESPN, you have number 18, Louisville at Syracuse. Syracuse is a 2-point favorite. Syracuse gets up for these games at home against these big-name schools. That's where Jim Boeheim's teams thrive the most. I would have preferred it if Cuse was an underdog. I think this game should be a pick'em. But I'm going to take Syracuse to win and cover, but I don't feel super about it. I think Louisville, that blown game against Duke, is going to do some serious damage to the Cardinals. On CBS Sports Network, Xavier at Seton Hall. Seton Hall's favored by 5. I think they'll win and cover. ESPNU, Tulane at Memphis. Memphis is favored by 17.5. They'll win and cover. Tulane is just god-awful. ACC Network, Boston College and NC State. NC State's favored by 10.5. They'll win, but Boston College covers. Fordham at Richmond. Richmond's favored by 6.5. They'll win and cover. They've played well in A-10 play. LaSalle at St. Bonaventure. Bonaventure's an 8-point favorite. I'm going to say Bonaventure wins, but LaSalle covers. UMass at George Washington. UMass is favored by 2.5. I'm going to say that George Washington pulls the outright upset at home. Lipscomb at Florida Gulf Coast, North Florida. Jacksonville, Stetson at NJIT, North Alabama at Kennesaw State. American at Lafayette. Army at Lehigh. Evansville at Loyola Chicago. Illinois State at Indiana State. Navy at Loyola Maryland postponed due to snow. 7:30, you have A&M Corpus Christi at Stephen F. Austin. Central Arkansas at McNeese. Nichols at Sam Houston State. 8 o'clock, Western Illinois at Omaha. Northwestern State at Houston Baptist. Lamar at Incarnate Word. Southeast Louisiana at New Orleans. Denver at South Dakota. Southern Illinois at Valparaiso. Northern Iowa at Missouri State. 8:30, Big Ten Network, Northwestern at Ohio State. Ohio State's a 7.5-point favorite. I'm going to say that the Buckeyes win, but Northwestern covers. 8:30, Fox Sports 1, St. John's at Providence. Providence is a 1.5 favorite. I think St. John's has garnered a lot of momentum with that big win over Villanova. Yes, there's a letdown case, and that's why Purdue's a favorite, but they are suggesting that St. John's is the better team. Because normally, if two teams are even, the home team's usually giving 3, but this scenario, Providence is only given 1.5. So give me St. John's to pull the outright upset on the road, but I don't feel super about it. Arkansas at Auburn. Auburn's favored by 12. They'll win and cover. The biggest game of the night in all sports. What I believe is the second best rivalry in all of sports, only behind Yankees-Red Sox, is college basketball's edition of North Carolina and Duke. Number 8, North Carolina. Number 1, Duke. 9 o'clock, ESPN. Dan Schulman, Jay Billis on the call. Game day will be there at 6 o'clock on ESPN. Duke is favored by 8.5. I think that is very big. I was projecting this line to be somewhere between 5 and 6. I would have gone Duke by 6 at most. I think Duke is obviously the better team, led by Zion Williamson, Cam Reddish, and R.J. Barrett. North Carolina has a boatload of talent as well, led by freshman Kobe White and Nasir Little, along with veterans Cameron Johnson and Luke May. You have 7th Woods on there as well. I think that Duke will win, but North Carolina stays within the 8.5. I think this game will come down to the final shot. I could totally see North Carolina trying to go for the win, and then the buzzer sounds and they miss a shot, and then Duke survives. It's going to be one of those types of games. So give me Duke to win, but North Carolina to easily cover. CBS Sports Network, Butler, number 11, Marquette. Marquette's favored by 6. This isn't the Butler of old. Marquette's going to win and cover. Pitt at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a 2-point favorite. They'll win and cover. Georgia Tech's due for a win. Actually, both of these teams are. Both of these teams are on long losing streaks right now, and I really think that home court advantage will prevail for Josh Pastner's team to snap their losing streak. ESPNU, Wichita State at Tulsa. Tulsa's a 1.5 favorite. Wichita State beat Tulsa a few weeks ago in their own building. So now I think it's Tulsa's turn for revenge in their own building. So give me Tulsa the win and cover. Creighton at DePaul. DePaul's a shocking 1-point favorite. I think Creighton wins on the road. I just think they're better than DePaul. DePaul's overachieved this year. I think they're the biggest surprise of the Big East this year. As much as people are saying, oh, well, it's St. John's. St. John's has a lot of talent. Arguably has the most talented roster in the Big East. Their coach isn't good, but to me, the big surprise in the Big East is DePaul this year, but I don't think they'll win this game. I think Creighton will. So give me Creighton on the road as a 1-point underdog to win outright. ESPN2, you have Stanford at Arizona State. Arizona State's a 7.5-point favorite at home. I think the Sun Devils win, but Stanford covers. Stanford hasn't been that bad this year. You had to give the Cardinals some credit. Pac-12 Network, Colorado, Washington State. Colorado's a 3.5-point favorite. They'll win and cover. Cal State Northridge at Long Beach State. Air Force at Fresno. Fresno's favored by 13. I think they'll win and cover. Colorado State and San Jose State. Colorado State's a 10-point favorite. I'm going to say they win and cover. CBS Sports Network at 11 o'clock. Number 6, Nevada at San Diego State. Nevada's a 7.5-point favorite. This is a tricky spot, but I think Nevada wins and covers. ESPNU, New Mexico at Utah State. Utah State's a 14.5-point favorite. They'll win and cover because Utah State is battling for an at-large spot. I think Fresno's in play for one, too, so don't sleep on them. But I like Utah State to win and cover. That game in on Fox Sports 1, Utah at Washington. Washington's an 8-point favorite. 8.5. And I like Washington to win and cover. They're another team fighting for their at-large lives. So give me the Huskies on their home court to win and cover that spread. We'll get into women's college basketball. There's already one game final between ranked opponents. Number 20, Iowa State defeats Oklahoma 91-70. Iowa State improves to 20-6. Oklahoma 6-19. Bridget Carlton had 28 for Iowa State, and Anna Luansa had 20 for the Sooners. So Sooners not a tournament team, and Iowa State in all likelihood is headed there. Kansas at number 1 Baylor at 7 o'clock, and then the other game that's on tonight is Memphis at number 3 UConn. So it should be some interesting games, and I'm only going to be talking about ranked opponents on women's college basketball, and once we hit March, then we'll expand my coverage with women's hoops, but now it's getting a little closer, so I want to discuss it a little more and give that sport some love. NHL, some really, really interesting results from last night. A lot of these results can lead to what teams do at the deadline, especially those that are sitting there on the bubble. The Rangers defeat the Hurricanes 2-1. I thought about putting Carolina in my best bet from yesterday, but I decided not to because I thought there was a chance that the Rangers were going to win this game, and sure enough, they did. New York is 26-25-8. Carolina's 31-23-6. Number 1 star of the game with 43 saves on 44 shots. Henrik Lundqvist looked like vintage Henrik Lundqvist last night for the first time in a long time. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Vladimir Nemestikov. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Jordan Martinook. The Panthers defeat the Sabres 4-2. The Panthers are 26-24-8. Buffalo's 28-24-7. Number 1 star of the game with 2 assists, Frank Vatrano. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Alexander Barkov. Number 3 star of the game with 2 goals and an assist, Jonathan Huberdeau. The Penguins defeat the Devils 4-3. Pittsburgh 32-21-7. New Jersey 23-29-8. Number 1 star of the game with a goal, Brian Rust. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and an assist, Marcus Johansson. Number 3 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Jesper Bratt. The Lightning defeat the Flyers 5-2. That is 8 straight wins for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm sorry, that's 7. My bad. 46-11-4 on the year. That's just phenomenal. It's like Golden State Warriors territory. And Philadelphia 28-25-7. Number 1 star of the game with the goal and assist, JT Miller. Number 2 star of the game with 2 assists, Sean Couturier. Number 3 star of the game just played a good game, didn't record a point, Eric Cernak. The Canadiens defeat the Blue Jackets 3-2. A huge win for Montreal to keep their playoff hopes alive. I mean, a loss here wouldn't have been good or necessarily that brutal, but I think it's more brutal of Columbus to lose this game because it furthers questions about the futures of Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, who are both obviously free agents to be this summer. Montreal 32-21-7, Columbus 33-23-3. Number 1 star of the game with the goal, Max Domi. Number 2 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Josh Anderson. Number 3 star of the game with the goal, Thomas Tatar. The Blues defeat the Maple Leafs 3-2 in overtime. A phenomenal win for St. Louis. That's 11 in a row. They are now 32-22-5. Toronto 36-19-4. Number 1 star of the game with the goal, Ryan O'Reilly. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Colton Parayko. Number 3 star of the game with 2 assists, Tyler Bozak. The Ducks defeat the Wild 4-0. Anaheim playing a little better since the coaching change. They're 24-27-9. Minnesota 27-27-6. Number 1 star of the game with 31 saves on 31 shots, Ryan Miller. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, Jacob Silfverberg. Number 3 star of the game, didn't have a point, but just played a good game for the Wild, Mikael Granlund. The Predators defeat the Stars 5-3, a good win for Nashville on the road. They are 35-22-5. Dallas is 29-25-5. Number 1 star of the game with the 2 goals and an assist, Roman Josi. Number 2 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Issa Lindell. And number 3 star of the game with 3 assists, Ryan Ellis. The Coyotes defeat the Oilers 3-2 in a shootout. Connor McDavid did not play for Edmonton due to an illness. Arizona goes to 27-28-5. Edmonton 24-29-6. Number 1 star of the game with 2 assists, Leon Draisaitl. Number 2 star of the game with 35 saves on 37 shots, Darcy Kuemper. Number 3 star of the game with 33 saves on 35 shots, Mikko Koskinen. Smaller slate tonight. 4-game slate. 7:30, NBCSN, the Blackhawks at the Red Wings. On the call of the game, Mike Tirico. I believe it's his first ever hockey game that he's going to ever call. If not, it'll certainly be his first NBC hockey game. Along with Eddie Olczyk and Brian Boucher. I absolutely love the way the Chicago Blackhawks have been playing of late. I think the wrong team's favored in this game. The Red Wings are headed for a tank. I think they'll make some trades to bolster their rebuild. Give me the Blackhawks to win this game by multiple goals. I don't get why they are not favored in this game. 8:30, the Jets at the Avalanche. 9:30, the Islanders at the Flames. And 10 o'clock on NBC Sports Network, you have a good one. The Bruins at the Golden Knights. This one will be called by Dave Goucher and Pierre Maguire. Golden Knights have been struggling a little bit on home ice. I believe it's 5 straight home losses. I think that trend finally reverses and they get a home win over a team that I think is focusing more on making a big move at the trade deadline rather than playing games right now. So give me the Golden Knights. I'm going to say this one goes to OT because I feel like a lot of these games on national TV have gone to OT lately. Obviously, the Bruins at the Sharks on Monday night, and last night the Maple Leafs Blues game went to overtime. I think this is going to be 3 nights in a row where an NBC Sports Network game goes to OT, as the Golden Knights will snap the Bruins 6-game win streak. Now I'm going to do my rankings for right fielders as we inch closer to the start of the baseball season. Right field has a lot of great players at that position. I have a whopping 36 of them. Some of these guys are platoon guys. Other of these guys are slated to be DHs, but we'll see some time in the outfield as well. And obviously some of these guys are free agents. Number 36, DJ Stewart, Baltimore Orioles. This is going to be his first full season in the bigs. Showed a little bit, but not much. 35, Lonnie Chisenhall. He's no longer of the Indians. I had Indians on my list, but he's not on Cleveland anymore. I think he's on Pittsburgh now. Let me change that. But to me, he's just a role player. Better suited to be an infielder rather than an outfielder. 34, Austin Meadows, Tampa Bay Rays. Make or break year for him, I think, as he's trying to live up to the top prospect status he had 5 years ago with the Pirates. 33, Mac Williamson, San Francisco Giants. He has some raw power, but he just hasn't been healthy a whole season. 32, Randall Grichuk, Blue Jays. I think that this is a player that could be trade bait, and considering that the Blue Jays are rebuilding, but they could be, on the flip side, a huge surprise courtesy of Vlad Guerrero Jr. and all the hype he's getting. So the Blue Jays to me are like an if or maybe, but you never know kind of a team, not an outright dumpster fire like the Orioles or the Royals or the Tigers. But I think the Blue Jays are in that next level of if things break right for them kind of team. But if things don't break right, I think Grichuk could be on the move. 31, Jason Hayward, Chicago Cubs. One of the biggest flop free agent signings over the last 5 years for sure. He had a walk-off grand slam for the Cubs. I believe it was either last year or the year before. But other than that, he hasn't really had that great of a moment as a Cub. 30, John Jay, White Sox. I think they signed John Jay so they could get Manny Machado. That obviously has not worked out. But he's someone else that I think will be trade bait this year, probably. 29, Tyler Naquin, Cleveland Indians. He's somebody that was a Rookie of the Year candidate when he was a rookie. I believe it was 2016. But ever since then, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. 28, Brian Anderson, Marlins. He had a good rookie year. I think Anderson has kind of hit his ceiling. I don't see him evolving as an all-star type of player. 27, Aaron Altherr, Phillies. He's somebody that's either could be red hot or ice cold. He's a good fourth outfielder that's going to see a lot of playing time, assuming the Phillies don't sign Bryce Harper. Which I think they probably will sign Bryce Harper, but if they don't sign Bryce Harper, then you're going to see a lot of Aaron Altherr. 26, Cole Calhoun, Los Angeles Angels. He got demoted last year in the beginning of the year, and then he got recalled and actually played pretty well. 25, Nick Williams, Phillies. If they don't sign Bryce Harper, he'll be their starting right fielder. If they do sign Bryce Harper, then Williams will be their fourth outfielder. 24, Carlos Gonzalez, who's currently a free agent. Who's going to sign Carlos Gonzalez? I think if somebody gets hurt in spring training, then he'll be signed. 23, Avisail Garcia, Rays. He's slated to be their DH, but I see him sharing time with Austin Meadows in right field. He's somebody that is an okay hitter, but not so great of a defensive player. 22, Josh Reddick, Astros. He's a player in decline. We saw that last year. But he's obviously a good leader in that locker room with the Astros. 21, Ryan Braun, Brewers. Bad contract, but still a pretty good player. I think he's a better player than given credit for right now. He's not a superstar anymore, but he's right now a pretty good player. 20, Brandon Nimmo, Mets. He's somebody that brings a lot of energy to his game. I know that a lot of opposing players don't like when he runs, when he draws a walk, but he's a pretty gritty player. Number 19, Nick Markakis, Braves. Smart move by Atlanta by re-signing a veteran who really helped them last year. 18, Omar Maraza, Rangers. Maraza's somebody that has had some big months and had some subpar months. He just needs to put it all together. And that would really help the Rangers in their rebuild. 17, Max Kepler, Twins. He's somebody that has had some moments and somebody that has some upside. But like Maraza, he hasn't really put it all together. 16, Jose Martinez, Cardinals. He's slated to be their platoon right fielder as of right now. I think they're going to use him all over the place. But if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody traded for him. 15, Jorge Soler, Royals. He showed a lot of potential last year. And ever really since that he was traded from the Cubs. I think this is one that the Cubs might regret already because Jason Hayward obviously has been a bust for them. And they probably thought Soler was a bust, but Soler might just be a late bloomer. I think they did the right thing by not trading Javier Baez. He's proven to be a late bloomer as well. Number 14 is Franmil Reyes of the Padres. Very raw power. This guy's going to be a stud. Number 13, Hunter Renfroe, Padres. He showed a lot of signs of a breakout at the end of last year. Let's see if this is the year he finally puts it all together. He was, of course, a highly touted prospect by them. 12, David Dahl, Rockies. He was a lottery pick in 2012 who hasn't been staying healthy. He broke out in a pretty big way in 2017, or that might have been 2016. But at the end of 2018, he really showed a lot of capabilities of what he could be. Let's see if he replicates it to a full season. Number 11, Steven Souza Jr., Diamondbacks. He's somebody that's certainly going to be trade bait this year because the Diamondbacks are probably going to be blowing up the rest of their roster after the trading of Paul Goldschmidt. 10, Nicholas Castellanos, Tigers. He's somebody that I think will be on the trade block this summer too. He's a really good player. He's improved each and every year. 30 home run potential. 9, Stephen Piscotty, Oakland Athletics. He came on at the end of last year helping the Athletics get to the wild card game. Let's just hope he stays healthy. 8, Tyler O'Neill, Cardinals. This is highly, highly optimistic of a projection for O'Neill, who really showed a lot of capabilities last year. And I do think he'll start most of the games in right field for the St. Louis Cardinals as they like to snap a playoff drought. 7, Adam Eaton, Nationals. He's somebody that really hasn't been able to stay healthy the last couple years. But when he's healthy, he's a pretty good player. 6, Yasiel Puig, Cincinnati Reds. I think this guy is going to have a monster year and a contract year. Playing in a small ballpark like Cincinnati, I would not be surprised if he hits over 30 home runs this season. 5, Mitch Haniger, Mariners. He had a breakout this past year. I also think he could be a hot trade commodity this summer as well. 4, Cody Bellinger, Dodgers. With the signing of A.J. Pollock, that moves Bellinger from center to right after the trading of Yasiel Puig as well. Bellinger has a ton of power and really hurt himself a little bit in the playoffs, but he's still a very good player, and I think he'll improve. 3, Mookie Betts, Red Sox. Yes, I do have the reigning AL MVP 3 on this list. Listen, Mookie Betts is a phenomenal baseball player. But that was a career year for him last year. I don't think he's going to ever exceed that. I think that is his ceiling. If that's his ceiling, you would take that if you're the Red Sox. But the next 2 guys on the list, I don't think have hit their ceilings yet. Or maybe the number 1 guy on the list, but not the number 2 guy on the list. And number 2 is Bryce Harper, who's currently still a free agent. He'll probably end up in Philadelphia. Maybe he goes back to D.C. But I don't think Bryce Harper's hit his ceiling yet. He really is somebody that's been hurt a lot throughout his career. The 1 year he stayed fully healthy, had the best year of his career, which led him to the National League MVP. And I really think that Harper can reemerge as a top 5 player in the game this year. Number 1, Aaron Judge, New York Yankees. If you didn't see his 2017 season, then you're really missing out. I think there's a chance that the 2017 season for him was his ceiling. But the case against it being his ceiling is because he had a 6-week slump in August of 2017 that cost him the AL MVP award, in my opinion. That guy was headed for a triple crown, and then his batting average dipped off, despite the gaudy power numbers. But I think there's a chance Aaron Judge hits 340 with 60 home runs and 150 RBIs next year. And that's better than Mookie Betts' year from last year and JT Martinez's year from last year. And obviously better from his 2007 rookie season, which made him the runaway winner for American League Rookie of the Year. Which, even with the 285 average, with all those home runs and RBIs, really should have been the American League MVP instead of Jose Altuve. And obviously Altuve is the best second baseman in the game, and he really is a great player. But his power numbers, I think that was his career year in terms of a power surge. I'm talking about 2017 with Altuve, and he didn't have as many RBIs as Judge. And Judge had a higher on-base percentage than Altuve that year too. But I think Aaron Judge is the best right fielder in the game. And you could make a case for Harper and you can make a case for Betts, but my pick is Aaron Judge. Manny Machado yesterday signed with the Padres, 10 years, $300 million. We talked about it for 10 minutes when I opened the podcast up yesterday. He, I think, will help those young kids grow. Maybe it'll be a learning situation for Machado, a little bit of his own, because he had a turbulent playoff last year with the non-hustling, and I think that's why teams like the Yankees stayed away. I really do. The Yankees won't admit it, but I personally think that they didn't overpay for Manny Machado because of his October performance. I really believe that. And the same can be said about the Philadelphia Phillies and even the Dodgers if they were even thinking about bringing him back, because they overpaid in that trade. But I discussed what it could mean for their infield before the year, and once they call it Fernando Tatis. And I discussed what it means for the White Sox and how they missed out. And then Ken Rosenthal reported after I recorded the podcast yesterday, the final offer from the White Sox was 8 years, $250 million. But obviously the Padres gave him more years and the same annual average value. Or no, it would have been a little different. It would have been $5 million off from an average annual standpoint. So, good for the Padres, bad for the White Sox. And another thing that I forgot to mention yesterday, I think this is a win for Bryce Harper. So, that means that Bryce Harper would get the bigger contract. Because Scott Boras' goal this offseason was to make Bryce Harper the highest paid player in the game. I think he'll become that. It's just a matter of what team he'll go to. Before I do my NHL trade predictions, Le'Veon Bell, it was announced by the Steelers general manager that they won't be using the transition tag on him, and he will indeed become a free agent. And he obviously is somebody that is a transcendent player when he's healthy. But I would be weary of overpaying him because he could be in decline after not playing a year ago, or even you could argue he could be fresh after not playing a year ago, and maybe he'll be rusty. And I think the teams that will be in play for him are teams that are either looking to make a big splash with a young quarterback, or a team that really has a small window in order to win. I think teams like the Jets fit the first bill I made, with a team with a young quarterback looking to make a big splash. I think Houston fits that bill. I think Indy's more towards the next window of a closing window with Andrew Luck's not an aging quarterback, but I think the window for Indy isn't necessarily closing, but Luck is a little bit older than, obviously, Sam Darnold and Deshaun Watson. But the team that really fits the window is closing and can use a big weapon is the Green Bay Packers. Their window might already be closed, but I don't think they think that, because they still think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the game. And I really think that there's a chance they sign him. Obviously, teams with already have star running backs like the Saints, the Giants, and the Cowboys will be out. I don't see Tampa Bay signing him because they're rebuilding. Or maybe they do. I mean, maybe I shouldn't rule out the Bucs. Atlanta already has a good 2 running back monster with Tevin Coleman. Actually, Coleman's a free agent. And Devontae Freeman. I don't see Carolina signing him because they have a star running back in Christian McCaffrey. Seattle might be a dark horse because they can upgrade at running back. I don't see the Rams signing him because obviously they have Todd Gurley. I think San Francisco is a dark horse to get him, and obviously you can't count out John Gruden and the Raiders. They have a lot of cap space. So I think he'll have plenty of suitors to follow, so that's something to obviously keep an eye on. One more rumor before I go to NHL trade predictions. Colin Cowherd on his show just said that Russell Wilson, he's hearing that he wants out of Seattle. If that's true, that is sneaky big. And I'll talk about that more on tomorrow's podcast because I am running short on time. And now, the moment you guys have been waiting for. Trade deadline predictions for the NHL. I made one prediction for team. And I was going to do a bonus trade pick, but I don't see it really happening. But I'll say what I came close to predicting at the end as my bonus trade prediction. But let's just start. Anaheim Ducks will trade Adam Henrique to the Tampa Bay Lightning for a 2020 second-round pick and center Alexei Lyapunov. So, Tampa bolsters its down the middle by acquiring a guy that's been to a Stanley Cup final before in Henrique, who is getting up there in age, but could still be like a third-line guy for them. The Arizona Coyotes acquire Nick Jensen from the Detroit Red Wings for a 2019 fourth-round pick. Jensen would bolster their defensive corps just a little bit. The Boston Bruins acquired Mark Stone from the Ottawa Senators for a 2019 first-round pick, defenseman Euro Vakanainen, and center Trent Frederick. That's a nice haul for Ottawa for Mark Stone, and that just signals that Boston's going for it. They're obviously in play for all the big-name forwards that are available via trade. You know, a lot of people are going to have Kevin Hayes linked to there because Hayes is obviously from that area, but I have Kevin Hayes going somewhere else. That's a spoiler. But just not Boston. I have Mark Stone going to Boston. The Buffalo Sabres trade Jeff Skinner to the Calgary Flames for a 2019 first-round pick, defenseman Juuso Valimaki, and centers Linus Lindstrom and Dylan Dubé. As Calgary gets a great player in their top six to play with Johnny Gaudreau and all the young players that they have there. Buffalo's a franchise that knows what it's doing. And they obviously don't want to lose a free agent asset for nothing. Maybe Skinner will end up going back there in the offseason. The Carolina Hurricanes trade Dougie Hamilton to the New York Islanders for a 2019 second-round pick, Kiefer Bellows, Anthony Beliveau, and defenseman Robin Salo. I think that last night's loss for Carolina, even if they didn't lose last night, I think that they know that they don't want to lose a guy in a contract here for nothing. And rumor is that they're trying to get rid of Dougie Hamilton. I think the Islanders would be a good fit. And obviously Lou Lamoriello is somebody that is never shy to do anything. The Chicago Blackhawks trade Artem Anisimov to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2019 third-round pick and defenseman Christopher Gunnarsson. I think that Anisimov will help the Canucks. I think the Canucks want to bolster their lineup by getting some veterans in there. Some of them are rich or overpaid, like Anisimov. But I think that Vancouver wants to try to make the playoffs with their young core. Even though they were in it, 3 years ago they made it? 4 years ago? Yeah, it was 4 seasons ago they made it. They were a 2-seed. They were a very surprising 2-seed that year. And, 2-seed in the Pacific Division. And I think that they want to bring in some guys there to help out their young players like Bo Horvat and Brock Boeser and obviously Elias Pettersson. The Colorado Avalanche acquire Michael Ferland from the Carolina Hurricanes for a 2019 first-rounder, their own. Defenseman Connor Timmins and winger Sampo Ranta. I think that Colorado's willing to trade their own first-round pick, but no way they want to trade the Ottawa pick unless if they knew they were getting something spectacular, which they're not getting something spectacular. So, Michael Ferland, somebody good that would help out their forward crops, and some assets go back to Carolina. The Columbus Blue Jackets acquire Matt Duchene from the Ottawa Senators for a 2019 first-rounder. winger Paul Bittner, defenseman Andrew Peak, and center Emil Benstrom. I think that's a solid package for Duchesne if you're Ottawa. And I can see Columbus, despite trading some players, potentially going out and buying some players too. The Dallas Stars acquired Jacob Silfverberg from the Anaheim Ducks for a 2019 second rounder, center Liam Howell, and wing Roop Hintz. I think Silfverberg would help Dallas. I think they can use some secondary scoring there. So the Red Wings trade Gustav Nyquist to the Montreal Canadiens for a 2019 second rounder, defenseman Alexander Romanov, and center Jody Aikinen. I think that Montreal can use some more scoring in their top six or even their third line, and Nyquist, I just think, screams Canadians. That just feels like a very Mark Bergevin move, and he wouldn't give up that much for him. And they obviously keep their first-round pick. The Edmonton Oilers trade Jesse Puljujarvi and a 2019 second-round pick to the New York Rangers for Tampa Bay's 2019 pick, whether that's their first or second, depending on how they do in the playoffs, and Neil Pionk. The Oilers get a high-end, high-upside defenseman, or not really high-end, but more of a high-upside offensive defenseman with Neil Pionk, and the Rangers get a high-upside player with Jesse Puljujarvi, who really hasn't panned out for the Oilers. And I could totally see Jeff Gorton making a move for a lottery pick that hasn't panned out yet with Puljujarvi. The Florida Panthers trade Derek Brassard to the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2019 second-round pick, 2020 third-round pick, and center Evan Barrett. I think that is a good deal for Chicago. Brassard would replace Anisimov. He's better than Anisimov. And I just think Brassard on a team with all those veterans on it, I think that's where he would thrive most. Obviously, Pittsburgh last year, that just didn't work out. But I just like the idea of him in Chicago with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves and all those dudes. He can slide in right in as their number 3 center, or even their number 2 center to wing Alex DeBrincat. The Los Angeles Kings trade Jeff Carter to the Minnesota Wild for a 2019 second-round pick and wing Von Ladnia. Minnesota, despite falling apart, they're still in the mix for the playoffs, and I think that they will retool and add rather than retool with subtract, but you never know. The Minnesota Wild acquire Michael Del Zotto from the Anaheim Ducks for a 2019 fourth rounder. I think that Del Zotto would be a nice depth defenseman for them after Del Zotto was shipped from Vancouver to Anaheim, and I think Anaheim wants to trade some assets, and I think Del Zotto would be somebody that will be shown the door, but not for bad reason, but to help out somebody make the playoffs or help somebody go on a run. The Montreal Canadiens acquire Ben Lovejoy from the New Jersey Devils for a 2019 fifth rounder. I think Lovejoy's somebody that's going to be moved, and I could see Bergevin giving up something cheap for him. The Nashville Predators acquire Matt Zuccarello from the New York Rangers for a 2019 first-round pick, defenseman Alexander Carrier, and winger Justin Kirkland. I do not think the Rangers land Eli Tollivan in a Zuccarello deal, but I think it's conceivable more in a Chris Kreider deal if they were to trade him, or no way they trade Mika Zibanejad, but if they were to deal Zibanejad, he would obviously fetch a lot back at this point, but I think Zibanejad's their key guy to rebuild around right now, believe it or not. And then Kevin Hayes could conceivably fetch back Eli Tolvanen, but I don't think Zuccarello would. But getting a 2019 first-round pick would be a win for the Rangers. Getting a first-round pick for Zuccarello from anybody would be a win. But I could see Nashville paying the price for Zuccarello. The New Jersey Devils trade Marcus Johansson to the Vegas Golden Knights for a 2019 second-round pick and winger Lucas Elevides. I think that Johansson would provide good depth to the Golden Knights as the Devils got some assets for him. I still can't believe they got a second-round pick for Brian Boyle. I have a lot of these as pretty much overpaid because of that Boyle trade, believe it or not. But I just think that's what the market's going to be this year. And that trade really has set up the market, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. The New York Islanders acquire Artemi Panarin from the Columbus Blue Jackets for 2019 and 2020 first-round picks, center Oliver Wahlstrom, defenseman Bode Wild, and wing Josh Ho-Sang. That is a fantastic haul for Columbus, and that's why I could see them going out and actually getting a Matt Duchene and giving up some of their own assets because they're going to be getting a ton of assets back for Panarin. And I really think that Panarin is somebody I could see Lamoriello targeting. Like I said, he's a big game hunter always when he knows his team has an opportunity, and the Islanders have an opportunity this year. And obviously the Rangers are rebuilding, and I think he's somebody that wants to steal the spotlight in New York in terms of a hockey perspective for a little while, so why not? Why not go out and trade for Artemi Panarin and Dougie Hamilton? Those are just two things I could totally see Lou Lamoriello doing in less than a week from now. If you told me that Artemi Panarin and Dougie Hamilton were members of the New York Islanders in a week from now, I'd say sure, I'd buy that. So I'm predicting it. Why not? The New York Rangers trade Kevin Shattenkirk to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2020 third-round pick and wing William Lockwood. I think that they want to get rid of Shattenkirk, and the team that I could see taking on his salary is Vancouver. And you know what? I'm going to say the Rangers throw in a fifth-round pick in the deal, too. I'm going to say a 2019 fifth-round pick, just to sweeten it up a little bit. So, Shattenkirk and the 2019 fifth-rounder to the Canucks for 2020 third-round pick and winger William Lockwood. I think that would be a move that I could see Jeff Gorton pulling off. The Ottawa Senators trade Cody Ceci to the Dallas Stars for a 2020 second-rounder, wing Albin Eriksson, and defenseman Chris Martinet. I think that Ceci would thrive on a new team. I just think that Ottawa just wasn't a proper fit for him. He's been supplanted on the team by Thomas Chabot, as Chabot's now their best defenseman. So, I think Ceci would do really well playing with Miro Heiskanen in Dallas. And John Klingberg, too. The Philadelphia Flyers trade Wayne Simmons to the St. Louis Blues for a 2020 first-round pick, center Robert Thomas, defenseman Vince Dunn, and winger Austin Pugnaski. That's a nice haul for Simmons. I could see Simmons going to St. Louis. That is such a Blues play. I considered putting him on Tampa and going to put Henrique somewhere else, but I just feel like Simmons and the Blues is a match made in heaven. Simmons would be reunited with his old coach, Greg Berube, so I just like that fit a lot, and I could see the Blues overpaying. And the other thing here is that the Blues would, in theory, would give up 3 first-round picks in a row. 1 for Braden Shen, 1 for Ryan O'Reilly, and now, in theory, 1 here for Simmons. As they go all in to try to win a Stanley Cup. The Pittsburgh Penguins acquire Ryan Dzingel from the Ottawa Senators for a 2020 first-round pick, defenseman Zach Lauzon, and winger Kasper Bjorkqvist. Dzingel's having a career year for Ottawa, and I could see a team like Pittsburgh overpaying for him. The St. Louis Blues acquire Adam McQuain from the New York Rangers for a 2019 fifth-rounder. So, there's that. Rangers get rid of yet another defenseman as they try to insert themselves in the Jack Hughes sweepstakes. The San Jose Sharks acquire Andrei Burakovsky from the Washington Capitals for a 2020 second-round pick, center Dylan Grable, and defenseman Jeremy Roy. That's a nice package for Washington for a player in Burakovsky that just isn't happy there. And obviously, he's somebody that I don't think the Capitals want to pay either, as he is going to be an RFA this summer. And I can see Burakovsky fitting very well in San Jose with the likes of Evander Kane there and some other veterans that I think Burakovsky could thrive around. The Tampa Bay Lightning acquire Carl Hagelin from the Los Angeles Kings for a 2019 fourth rounder. Hagelin would be a perfect fourth liner there, or a fill-in guy. And obviously somebody that's played in a lot of playoff games through the years. The Toronto Maple Leafs acquire Alec Martinez from the Los Angeles Kings for a 2019 third rounder. Martinez, the Leafs get him for kind of cheap. Martinez would really help them. They need a right shot defenseman. He would bolster their depth at that position as well, as the Leafs ironically take on two former Kings, first with Muzzin and now, in theory, here with Martinez. The Vancouver Canucks acquire Mikhail Boddicker from the Ottawa Senators for a 2019 fourth rounder. I think, like I said, Vancouver, I could see getting bad contracts from teams that don't want him anymore, like Anisimov and Shattenkirk, and here with Boddicker. 3 veterans that are overpaid, and I can see Vancouver taking those types of guys on and not giving up much assets. And that's a good strategy for Vancouver. The Las Vegas Golden Knights acquire Vlad Nemestikov from the New York Rangers for a 2020 second-round pick and Wayne Jonas Ronberg. I think Nemestikov is not the player that the Rangers thought he was getting in the deal for Ryan McDonough and JT Miller last year. But as a fourth-line guy, he hasn't been terrible. And I think they can get something similar back from what New Jersey got back with Brian Boyle. So I can see Vegas overpaying a little bit here for a depth guy. The Washington Capitals acquire Alexander Edler from the Vancouver Canucks for a 2019 third-round pick. Vancouver's a team that I could see also shipping out veterans that are on expiring contracts, and Edler is one of them, and Edler would give the Capitals a depth piece on defense. And last but not least, the Winnipeg Jets acquire Kevin Hayes from the New York Rangers for a 2019 first-round pick, forward Jack Roslovic, wing Kristen Vesalainen, and defenseman Luke Green. That's a nice package for the Rangers. For Hayes, they get a first-rounder, and Roslovic, somebody that hasn't really panned out and has been hidden on their depth chart behind the likes of Kyle Connor and obviously Patrick Laine and others, Mark Sheffley. And I think that Roslovic is yet another guy I could see the Rangers taking a chance on to see if he could kind of replicate what he was perceived to be. As yet again, the Rangers try to get into that Jack Hughes sweepstakes. It's going to be hard, but the case for it is that trade the guys that I have projected to be traded. You don't play Henrik Lundqvist very much. You play Georgiev, who's been much better than I expected him to be this year. And your defense stinks. Even after you trade away some of your not-so-great defenders in Shattenkirk and Pionk, your defense is still bad. Mark Stahl's not the same anymore, although he's been okay this year, but he's overpaid. And then obviously you have Brady Shea, who's okay, and then you can call guys up from the minors, and then you have these guys that are coming in trades that the Rangers would want, in theory, to get their feet warm up in the NHL level. So we'll see what happens. I just laid out a good argument for them to be an entry into the Jack Hughes sweepstakes. And last but not least, my best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. I did not win yesterday because the Iowa State Cyclones lost to Baylor outright. And Notre Dame lost to Wake Forest. So those two teams right there cost it. And now tonight, I have a bunch of college teams and a hockey team. NC State, Loyola Chicago, Lipscomb, Memphis, Sam Houston State, Omaha, Auburn, Fresno State, Colorado State, Utah State, Washington. And my hockey team in this, the Chicago Blackhawks, who are an underdog. But I just think that the wrong team's favorite. I said that already on this podcast earlier. And that is plus 740, wagering $1 to pay out $8.41. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping all the college basketball stuff. Look ahead to tomorrow's games. NBA returns tomorrow. Obviously the NHL. Maybe Bryce Harper signs. Maybe he doesn't. We'll talk more about this Russell Wilson story that kind of is emerging. And obviously my best bet of tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.